I start now? Morning.
Morning, you may start.
All right. Good morning, grade 12s, and welcome to Life Orientation. My name is Sibusiso Masumbuka, and I'm your grade 12 life orientation teacher. Yesterday, we started off the topic of careers and career choices, and you guys had a lot of burning questions, and I want us to start with those questions this morning. Um, Welcome to all the learners that are joining us for the very, very first time. Thank you to the learners that are joining us again. I'm seeing a lot of familiar names here. Thank you so much for joining me. Interesting to find out what your questions that you guys want to find out from me with regards to careers and career choices. Yesterday, we looked at applications to a higher education institution. We had a look, we spoke about having a commitment and committing to something that you want to study and sticking to that decision. And how do you make that decision? We also revised the different the different career categories. We've got investigative, artistic careers, social careers, realistic careers, enterprising careers, as well as conventional careers. So we had a look at that as well. So I want to find out from you, what are some of the burning questions that you had with regards to applying at a university? What are you anxious about going to university? Okay, and then, so whilst you guys ask those questions, I want to tell you that today we're going to be looking at how to apply for a job or job interview skills. Very, very important for us to sharpen those skills and learn. Yesterday we learned how to apply at a university, and I sort of want to reflect on that as well. And then we're going to discuss more on that. A lot of you guys, Kyle said, rejection, the rejection, all right. You're anxious about the rejection. I see Crooks also says also about the rejection. We're going to speak about that, and I want to encourage you and tell you, because we're going to be speaking about today. We're going to talk about the requirements for acceptance and the possible challenges that you might face. And it's so important to have a plan B, guys. And also with having a plan B, you also need to remember that you need to set goals that are going to help you achieve and get to where you need to get to in achieving those goals. For example, getting into that university. Um, sorry if sorry if I butcher your name. Guinea says, "I'm afraid of choosing the wrong career path and having to start all over again with something new." Remember the steps that we spoke about yesterday. That you need self-knowledge. You need to research about careers, and you need to stick to a decision. Guineas, if you do that, you need to it will be much easier for you to at least know what career to get into. Um, so please make sure that you know what your interests are, what you know what your abilities are, you know what your strengths are, you know what your weaknesses are. It's so important for you to do that. Remember, your interests are the things that you like. Your abilities are the things that you're good at. And I can tell you this now: if you're actually good at something, you're good at advising somebody, and people like to gravitate towards you. If you are a social person, then, like I said, then you should look at the career categories of that fall under social careers. So it's not so difficult, but yeah. Don't be afraid. Any questions on bursaries and study loans? We had a look at that yesterday again. Remember, I told you that fees are not falling at any time soon, especially in this huge economic rift that we are currently in, that's also caused by the corona pandemic that we have right now in our country and around the world. What are some of the questions that you guys have with regards to careers? All right, so you guys can drop them onto the chat box, and I'm going to continue with the lesson, and I'll also get a time later on to sort of go through the questions again. All right, thank you so much for your questions, guys. Very happy to see all of you here. All right, cool. So yesterday we only just spoke about applying for a course at a university. Today I want us to look at accommodation as well as travel arrangements. So where are you going to be staying whilst you are studying? And also let's have a look at it from a perspective of where are you going to be staying when you actually start looking for a job as well. All right. If you're going to get a job or study further, consider where you will stay and what advantages and disadvantages are of each option. The places to stay, I've made a diagram here. I said I've got it. I tabulated everything for you here. I said you can decide that you want to stay at home or you want to stay at a residence, also known as res or hostel, at the school or around the school. If you want to share a flat or a house, um, a lot of people like to stay in what we call communes. So you stay in a commune, it's a house, and everybody has their own room. Or you can decide that you want to get a little room or garden cottage very close to the university where you're going to be studying. So I want to find out from you, where are you planning to study? And also, where are you planning to stay? Let's put that in the chat box. I want to find out from you guys, and let's have a look at the possible advantages and disadvantages. If you stay at home, the advantages is that it will be cheap for you, so it'll be quite cheap for you because your parents normally are the people that provide for you. You get food and your washing done. Um, you all know laundry. Doing your own laundry can be quite time consuming, and then getting your own laundry done and getting food at home all the time readily available for you, as well as it being cheap. Staying at home is a lot cheaper, and some of you are actually quite privileged. You actually stay very close to university. And the disadvantages of staying at home is that parents will still treat you like a child. May not like You may not have a quiet space for you to study because you may have a very big family. um, Carl says, I plan to continue studying at a flight school in Cape Town. All right, nice one. Okay, so I want to find out, Kyle, where are you going to be staying? And let me know what happens at this flight school. Okay, and then let's have a look at residence or hostel. I particularly like residence and hostels. I stayed in res when I was in university, and there's a whole lot. There's a culture that is created in res, and I know a lot of you might be fearful of it because you might think that you might be bullied, because of all the some of the gruesome or possible gruesome initiations that might have. You guys are protected, and let me tell you this now: a lot of universities have actually strayed off that initiation and orientation that they usually had for their first years. It's actually res culture is actually quite fun, and you can actually interact. It's a community that you guys build, and imagine staying in a community or in a building of just academics that support each other. All right. So the possible advantages of staying at a res is that you stay close to campus or on campus. You don't have transport problems because some residences may be off campus, but the university may provide you with a bus or has a bus system that is free that will take you from your res and to your classes daily. These buses also operate till late at night in the evening at around 12 o'clock as well. And then the possible disadvantage of res is that in most residences, you may have to get a roommate, and most of the time, you do not know the roommate, the person that you're going to be sharing a room with. Um, but I know that with res culture, sometimes you can even in your second year, you might not get a roommate, and you might have your own room. So it's just only in the first year, and there's a lot of restrictions as well in res. And there may be too many distractions. It's also far from home, and living costs might be a teeny bit expensive, but it's not as expensive as when you have your own flat. All right. Um, just reading some of your questions here or some of the stuff that you guys are saying here. Um, Guinea says, I am planning to study at the University of Free State. It's just down the street from home. Oh, lucky you. All right. Nice one. Kyle says, I stay 30 minutes away and it's like a pilot school for after matric. Nice one. Okay, so you want to become a pilot. Absolutely fantastic. Kale says, planning to rent a bunch of rooms near the university that I'm going to, but then rent the other rooms to the other university students and make some money. That's very smart. All right. Cool. Yeah, sharing a room with a stranger or somebody that you don't know might be a bit of a problem, but you do get a house father or a residence father or a residence mother who who plays the role of a mother figure and can help you with a lot of issues that you might be going through. In res, you get they clean for you as well. The kitchens and the showers. You do know that you might also share a shower and a kitchen with other people. But other than that, other than the limitations and the restrictions to living in res, I think it's really really awesome because, like I said, there's a nice culture in res. I particularly liked staying in res when I was in university. Or you can decide that you want to share a flat or a house with other people. Some learners who actually go to university with the group of friends, they end up finding a house or an 8 bedroom house and they can all stay in that house. That can sometimes be a bit of a problem, but the advantages of that is that there's freedom of space and then you share the cost of the rents amongst your friends. The disadvantages is that living costs, distractions, and parties have to do. You have to do your own housework. So there's a lot of distractions because there aren't any rules when you stay at a flat and your own flat, or when you share a commune with other people. And I mean, you are amongst other millennials or other people that are of age or the same age as you. And we all know how other people have just no intention to learn in school when they come to university. So sometimes you might be end up linking up with the wrong crowd. And then if another place where you can stay is finding a room. Garden cottage it's cheap to rent and it's your own space, so you don't share this flat with everybody. However, the disadvantages is that it may be a cramped up room, no study room. It's difficult for you to cook your own food as well. All right, but guys, find an option that is also cheap for you, feasible for you, and also an option that you would enjoy. I know a lot of people battled with res because they couldn't stand the many rules that they had, but were able to stay in their own flats or in a commune very, very well. So you need to start thinking about where you're going to be staying. And guys, try and find a place that is closest to campus, because when you find a place that is closest to the university where you stay, then you have access. You can have access to the library, the computer labs, and so on and so forth. So if you don't have a laptop or and you want to do your homework or your assignments or your research, you will be able to have access to all those things. So finding accommodation very close to school is also very a good option. I think it's a viable option. All right, let's have a look at the travel arrangement. Can you get to your job or the university that you're going to be studying by taking a taxi or by walking, taking a bus or cycling or driving your own car? You need to look at that option as well. Obviously, walking also good, but also you're exposed to a lot of thieves or a lot of crime. Taking a taxi or a bus, not always convenient because they run at their own times, and we all know how the taxi and bus systems work here in South Africa. Cycling or driving your own car could also be a better option, but obviously, cycling or driving, for example, having your own car, you have to take it to service all the time. So there's a lot of advantages and disadvantages to this, but you always need to work it out to how or to what would work best for you in this option. All right. Now let's have a look at job application. All right. Now, applying for a job can be a very exciting time because in your head you're thinking, okay, I'm going to become a responsible person. I'm going to make my own money. But looking for a job can also be a very daunting task. Um, so because there's a lot that you need to do. The anxiety or the fear of getting or not getting the job. Um, some of you will at the end of your third year or your final year in university, you might be anxious and think, oh my word, I'm looking for a job. And today I want us to focus on some of the tips on how to apply for a job, some of the interview skills that you might need, because we see a lot of people um, create a lot of mistakes when they're applying for jobs, and it's so easy for employers to your potential employers or your prospective employers to just dispose your CV or your application because uh, of how it is, or the quality of work in the presentation of yourself. All right, so let's have a look at it. It says here, you may have decided that after grade 12 you want to join the job market. Before you apply, you need to consider the following things. You need to consider the following. This is really what you want to do and not someone else's decision. Again, it applies with careers as well. Don't allow your parents, or anybody else to live vicariously through you. And when we say that somebody lives vicariously through you, it means that they're living their dreams through you. All right. It is so important for you to sit down with them in a respectful manner and make them understand that this is the kind of person you are, and this is what you like, and this is the career you want to get into. So important for that. All right. So make sure that whatever job that you do is not because you're doing it because you've been influenced to do it or whatever. It needs to be something that you're going to love and enjoy, something you're going to wake up in the morning to and love to go to each and every time. Even when you don't have money, even if it doesn't pay as much, you need to be fulfilled um, when you do your job. The second point it says before you apply considering for a job, you need to consider uh, whether you need to gather as much information about the job as possible and other various options that you may be exposed to. All right, you need to have done research on the jobs as well as its details and know what qualifications are needed. You also need to know what the job description is. You need to know what you're going to be doing as your daily tasks. All right, you need to look at your working hours as well as so how long you're going to be working for, and you also need to be looking at the remunerations as well as the benefits. So we know that for every job, when you work, you get remunerated, which is then your salary or your wage. And there's other different types of benefits, like for example, your fringe benefits, such as traveling allowance or petrol allowance, and so on and so forth. So you need to, before you apply for a job, you need to consider all of those things. Is it something that you want to do? Do you know much about the job? What work are you going to be doing? How long are you going to be working? And how much are you going to work? All right, it's so important for you to know all of that stuff before making a job application. So, when you apply for a job, obviously you guys know the conventional way of applying for a job is that you need to have a cover letter, and in your cover letter, a restaurant manager, keep it short. Um, and emphasize why you are the right person for this job. It's so important. Your cover letter as your selling points. And there's a lot of templates on Word documents on your computer that will help you with a covering letter. All right, Crooks, I see you have a question there. Let me know what the question is. I don't really see what your question is. All right, will you just let me know and put it in the chat box? All right. So your covering letter, make sure that it is presentable as well. And then another thing that another tip for job application is that you need to make sure that that you have all the information that you need before applying for a job, such as your curriculum vitae or what we call now a resume, and the letters of references. So letters of references are letters that you get people who you've previously worked with or people that know you at a professional level or a more formal level who can write about you, a testimonial about you. All right. Obviously, the people that you put in your CV as references, you need to let them know that, hi, I've put you in my CV as a reference, and I'm applying for this job, and then that person can then be prepared and expect to call soon, and then they obviously will say then nice things about you. You don't want to put somebody that you don't have a good relationship with or have bad history working with in your reference list. And a lot of you might ask, but I literally have experience as a high school learner and experience as a varsity learner. Who do I put in my reference list? You can put anyone in your reference list. Remember I told you that you guys can do part-time work or volunteerism. You can put your pastor, your teacher, your varsity lecturer, anybody you've sort of worked with, anybody that understands or knows how competent you can be. Those are the people that you need to put in your reference list. All right. So those are the things that you need. And most jobs don't even ask you for a CV anymore, especially the ones online. They usually ask you to enter your details, and you are able to generate the CV online as well on that application. All right. Make sure that your application is easy to read. So you need to make sure that your fonts are correct. That there's the colors are correct, and that you remember this is a professional letter. Okay, do not type everything in capital letters, and so on and so forth. And make sure that everything is nice, neat, well organized, and there's headings, clear headings indicating what you're talking about and how you're introducing yourself to the prospective employer. All right. You also then, if you're attaching your CV to an email or uploading it to an application site, make sure that it isn't too large. So make sure a lot of CVs nowadays, a lot of employers ask for just a page CV. So your CV doesn't have to be 4 pages long. It also needs to be quite short and precise. Nobody has the time to be reading a 4 page CV anymore. All right. And then obviously whatever's in the cover letter does not have to be on the CV as well because they read both. You don't have to repeat yourself. All right. So make sure that you have if you want to put a picture of yourself on your CV, make sure that it is a professional picture and not a picture or a selfie of yourself or with your friends. It needs to be a very, very professional pictures. And I think it's so important for us to actually always save those professional pictures of ourselves. All right. If you have a funny personal email address, like for example, partyguy@gmail.co.za, change it because obviously that's not what you want your prospective employer to see of you, that you're a party person, because that obviously gives them the wrong perception. And so you need to get yourself an online email address, such as a Gmail address. Some of you don't even have email addresses. You need to start having a Gmail address or whatever other email address that you might have. Um, and it must have your own name because you're then easily identifiable as well. Try and keep it as professional as possible. Okay, guys. And then you need to read the job advert very carefully so that you don't ask questions that have already been asked in the advert. For example, if a post says that to become a content producer for a television show will they will charge, or the salary will be 50,000 rand, it would be redundant for you to ask how much you will get paid in that interview if you get asked. All right. Make sure that you have provided all required documents such as your CV, references, copies of exam results. They will always ask you for your matric certificate, so don't lose that. Copies of your academic transcripts as well. They will also ask for that, so make sure that you provide all of that stuff before you apply for a job. And also another important thing is that you need to check the spelling and your grammar. You can't use WhatsApp or SMS language when you are writing your CV. It needs to be full sentences explaining everything, well written, easy to read. You don't have to always use big words because errors when you make an error, it gives a bad impression and it shows carelessness, and you don't want that. You don't want your potential employer to think that of you. You want them to think of you as a very competent person who's very diligent in what they do as well. All right, I'm gonna go through a few interview skills or tips for when you are applying for a job. A lot of you guys are actually gonna be, even when you're studying, you're going to be looking for a part-time job, working and studying at the same time. I think it's really, really cool to gain that experience as well. Even if it's at a retail store, you never know who you'll meet and what networks you'll build whilst you're working and studying at the same time. And some of you, these skills might even help you. Some of you are going to be applying for scholarships and bursaries and learnerships. These are also skills that are quite usable or user friendly, and that you should use for these interviews, because the point, when you are articulate and you are self confident and you're sure of yourself in an interview, you'll definitely get it. And you know your work, then you'll definitely get it. The job interview part is a second step. This is when you actually get to impress the person, to let the employer know that the person that you said you were on the CV, is that really who you are? And you want to come across as a very confident person as well. So please, job interview, guys, for a job interview, you need to dress formally, um, or according to the culture of that business, well mannered, well structured, and so on and so forth. But let's have a look at them. The first one says start by researching the company and your interviewers. Guys, do a bit of research. Know who a lot of the people who are in the interview are people who are in management. So know the kind of people that you are. You really don't want to get to an interview and then you find out that Kurt is is one of the interviewers, and he's a very stuck-up person who doesn't like to joke around. Um, and then you all of a sudden crack a joke, they might not be able to impress them. Find out what your interview is like. And it's so easy to get information about the people that are going to be interviewing you because there's professional websites such as LinkedIn as well as Facebook and other stuff that you guys can get research on. But it's so important for you to research on the company and understand what the organizational culture is. So what are the principles and what is the company's ethos? So, for example, you could be a qualified chartered accountant wanting to work for a really big firm, and you are extremely qualified, but you just don't fit in with the culture. And if you don't fit in with the culture, the people can pick it up from the get-go. It's also important for you, and where you can find the information about the company is through social media or the internet as well. And then number two says you need to practice your answers to common interview questions. So you need to prepare to answer common questions like they will always ask you this one. Tell us about yourself. You need to be able to explain yourself. And sometimes it can be very difficult for you to tell other people about who you are because you don't know how much to tell them or how little to tell them. Because sometimes when you go on and on and on and on and on about yourself, it may seem like you are a very self-centered person, and that's not the kind of person you want to come across as. Whatever you tell them about yourself, it needs to be aligned with the job spec. What are they looking for? Who is the what is the type of person that they're looking for? That is how you explain yourself when they ask you. And then other questions that they commonly ask is why are you interested in this role with our company? The idea is to quickly communicate who you are and what you value and what value you will bring to the company in your role. And that is when you know that the interview is going well, and that is the inception of the interview. If you really struggle to answer the questions of um, tell me about yourself and why are you interested in working in the company, if you are unable to answer those questions, then it's going to be very difficult for you to continue impressing those people. So remember, always research, and when you do the research and you do research on the job spec, on what are the job specifications for this particular job, it makes it a whole lot easier for you to prepare yourself in this particular interview. Number three says reread the job description. So you know, in the job advert that you might see on social media or on adverts or the classified, there's always a job description. You may want to print it out and begin underlining specific skills that the employer is looking for. It's so important. All right. Think about the examples from your past and current work that align with these requirements. So they always ask for what sort of skills that you can use, and it's so important to understand the job description so that you are able to align your answers to so that you answer them according to what the exact person that they're looking for. Remember, you're trying to win a panel of people that are asking you these interview questions. And then number four says you need to use the STAR method in answering questions. Prepare the question the ask prepare to be asked about times in the past when you used a specific skill. So they will always make a reference to something, even when you are um, even if it's your first interview. So they might ask you a question, for example, like in your CV, you said that you have great leadership skills. Tell me when you exercise a particular leadership skill. Then you will say, when I was prefect at my school, or when I was head boy, or when I was the choir leader at my school, or when I was the rugby captain, I did this and this and this and this and this. So they will always ask you for when you actually, for past times and when you use that a particular skill. So the STAR method, like I said earlier, is the situation, the task, the action, and the result. You always need to um, uh, um, make sure that your responses and your answers to these questions also have a result, because that's what recruiters are looking for, somebody who is able to, who's cautious and conscientious about the work that they do. Number five says recruit a friend or practice answering questions. So it could be, doesn't have to be a friend, it could be a parent as well, your parents as well. Actually, practicing your answers out loud is an incredibly effective way to prepare. So it's always good. But guys, don't over prepare, because they might ask you other questions um, that might come up. Don't over prepare, because then um, it might be difficult for you to sort of respond to certain questions, especially if you've crammed all the answers. Number 8 says prepare smart questions for your interviewers. So at the end of an interview, they will give you an opportunity to ask questions. You don't want to ask ridiculous questions. I actually want to ask you in the chat box. Let me know. Do you think that it's fair or it's okay for you to ask your prospective employer in an interview how much you will earn? Let me know what you guys think. Do you think it's a sincere question to ask? All right. All right. I'd like to find out what you guys will say. Okay, prepare questions that you will ask for the to in the interview. The two-way street. Employers expect you to ask questions. They want you to know what that you are thinking seriously about what it is that you would like to work there. Here are some questions that you might want to consider asking your interviewers. So these are questions like, okay, a lot of you are saying yes and no. Um, yeah, but I want to find out from you. Do you think it's good? Do you think it's okay to ask? Um, if it's about how much you're going to be earning. Okay, here are some questions. Can you explain some of the day-to-day responsibilities for this job and what it entails? How would you describe the characteristics of someone who would succeed in this role? Absolutely important because you need to know um, how you're going to grow in the company. Also, if you ask this question, it also shows them that you actually also want to grow as well. All right. Um, the next bullet points, if you were in this position, how would my performance be measured and how often? So, how will you be appraised as an employee? All right. The next point says, what departments does this team work with regularly? So you need to also understand who else in the company are you going to be interacting with. All right. For example, a lot of the time, the purchasing department interacts with the finance department. All right, and the advertising department will always communicate with the marketing department or the PR department. All right, so you need to know who else you're going to be working with. All right, and then another question that you can ask is, how do these departments typically collaborate? So how do they work together? What does that process look like? Another nice question that you can ask is, what is the organizational culture of the business, so that you know how you're going to fit in. So it's so important for you to ask those questions. All right. Sophie says that she wouldn't ask because you might come across as arrogant. All right. You might come across as a person that just wants money. All right. Interesting responses there. I can't really tell you what is wrong or right. I personally don't ask how much I will get paid. I usually do research, and it's also you can actually go on the internet and actually look for a salary scale. So, for example, you pretty much find out what is the market salary for a particular person with these qualifications and who does this particular job. And obviously, they will always work around it. A lot of the times, the job descriptions will say, or the job advertisements will say that the salary is market related. Some of them will have the salary, all right, and there might be an opportunity for you to also negotiate some of the stuff. And also, you can ask people if you're not afraid, who sort of work in the same industry or do the same job, and find out from them how much they actually earn, if it's not too much of a personal question. All right, number 9 says plan your interview attire the night before. All right, if you're speaking to a recruiter before the interview, you can ask them about the dress code in the workplace and choose your outfit accordingly. If you don't have someone to ask, research the company and learn what's appropriate. You don't want to go there with torn jeans or tackies or um, a T-shirt that is written or that has profanity or anything like that. You want to go there, but most of the time the good the perfect attire to wear is formal clothes. But sometimes you might even end up going for an interview at a marketing or an advertising agency, and you might just look a bit too stuck up because, as we know, that um, marketing people are very artistic as well. So yeah, you need to find out in your research for the company. You need to find out what it is, the culture of the businesses, and what they normally wear there, because it will give you better understanding of it. All right. Another tip is win them over your authenticity and positivity. Don't complain about the world and things that are happening around you. Be authentic. Be yourself. Interviewers fall in love with people who are themselves. You guys can already spot from afar when somebody is not being themselves. So it's so important for you to become yourself, relax. It's so much easier to become yourself than to be somebody else. Don't always think too much into this is the kind of person that they're looking for. okay, this is how I should speak in an interview. If you become yourself and you're positive and you're authentic, trust me, that is a nice job tip for an interview. All right, respond truthfully to the questions that are being asked. So always be honest. If you don't understand a question, tell them to repeat them or ask them to decipher or decode it for you. But never answer a question or an interview question um, by lying. That's not a good way of or good impression because they might answer another. They might ask you another question later on, and it might actually expose you that you're a liar, and then your interview will just go terribly bad, and you might end up not getting the job. And then number 12 says tie your answers back to the skills and the accomplishments. All right, so I like this. I like this one. It says, with any question you answer, it is important that you tie your background to the job by providing examples or of solutions and results that you have achieved. Use every opportunity to address the requirements listed in the job description. Always speak towards that person that they're looking for. All right. Always speak towards that person that they're looking for. All right. Because that is why they have job specs, job specifications that give us a proper idea of this is the kind of person that they're looking for. All right. Number 14 says, do not speak negatively about your previous employers or any other time. Number 13, sorry, I skipped it. Says, keep your answers concise and focused. Don't go around and beat around the bush. Get straight to the answer and be precise. Because if you go on and on and on and on, it might end up exposing certain things about yourself. All right. And then number 15 says, ask questions about the next step. So find out, okay, what is happening after this interview. All right. And then send a personalized thank you letter after the interview to thank them for giving you the opportunity for the interview. All right, guys, another thing that we are not mindful of, a lot of people are not mindful of, is our social media accounts. A lot of employers or prospective employers check your activity on social media accounts because we all know how um, negative talks on social media can be to the detriment of the company, especially if you work for them and people know. So be careful about what you put up on YouTube. What videos are there out there on YouTube? Be careful about what you put up on Facebook. Be careful about what you tweet about. Earlier in the week, we heard about a similar instance about somebody who violated the code of conduct because of of something that she tweeted in her own company. Be careful about what you put on Instagram. Remember, these things are all things that are selling you. Be careful about what you put on LinkedIn. This is LinkedIn. This is your professional website, your professional social media page where you're able to network with other potential employers as well. And on Pinterest as well. And then if you don't want people to search your Facebook, your Twitter, and your Instagram account, then make it private. Make it private. All right. Guinea says, asked a very relevant question. Says, what does your social life have to do with your professional life? Interesting question. I'm assuming that you're asking this because of what you put out there on social media. All right, so Guineas, I want to ask you. So if I were your teacher, for example, or if I were your employee, if I worked for you, and every Saturday you saw pictures of me drinking with my friends, pictures of me, nude pictures or profanic pictures of myself, or you see pictures or you see tweets that are racist, tweets that are xenophobic, would you want me to work for your company? Would you want me to represent you and your company? All right. Remember, things trend on social media, and sometimes a lot of businesses work with potential clients, and if people are like see what you tweet, it could be to the detriment of the company, and people may cancel a contract because of that. All right, so make sure that you're careful about what you um, tweet or put up on your Instagram. It says another learner says if they check your social media and they see that you are arrogant and everything, um, then they'll think that you are not serious with everything. Yeah, absolutely. So what you put out there, social media account is your selling points. The social media account is your selling point. Try and not put too much of your personal life on your social media. Choose what people want to know. Choose things that you want other people to know about you. Um, Lisejo says, I think it's important to check your social media platform because it shows who you really are. Absolutely. I absolutely agree with you guys. All right. Um, all right. Here are some of the things. Um, here, the last thing that we're going to be focusing on today, the requirements for acceptance and possible challenges that you might face when applying at a university or for a job. Do not apply for jobs or courses if you do not have the necessary marks, qualifications, or experience. Guys, don't apply for something if you or for a course or for a job if you don't meet the requirements. They're just literally going to check your CV away and check your application away. So make sure that you always qualify and that you meet the requirements. I'm speaking specifically to the learners who are going to be applying at universities or who've already started applying at universities. You guys know that they're looking at your grade 11 marks. Make sure that you meet the requirements, the APS score, the English mark, the maths mark, the physics mark that they need. Make sure that it is what they want. If it's not what they want, then you then need to apply for a different course or then decide to apply with your grade 12 marks, which then, remember, you can only apply with your grade 12 marks only next year. So in 2021 or 2022. All right. And then the next point says, don't apply for a job if you haven't completed the application properly or fully or accurately. Don't apply for a job or course if you have missed the due dates. All right, a lot of you are guilty of missing due dates, especially with handing in assignments. If you've missed the due dates, then just don't apply at all because they're not going to consider your job application. All right, unless if they have an extension. Um, Right. Nini says, yes, sir, I understand, but what if you are an activist and your business does not agree with what you are doing, but you are you're content with your work and what is required? Does this mean that they will fire you or you Okay, so they might not fire you. Okay, so every business, especially in this day and age, they have what we call a social media policy or in their code of conduct. So that this will be in your contract as well, where they explain to you what are the restrictions in terms of social media. All right. Obviously, if you do anything that is against what is contracted in your contract, then obviously you will face disciplinary action. So they might not fire you on the spot, but you might face disciplinary action. And that is why it's so important for you to read your contract. All right. Okay, let's move on. The possible challenges that you might face next year is that you is the availability of funding, but we spoke about that, so I don't think there should be a problem there. All right. The next one says not being able to follow your first choice of study program um, because of space. All right, transport or accommodation, responsibilities at home, having to rewrite some subjects that you don't qualify for course for, the lack of jobs, very very important. Next lesson, sorry, we're going to be talking about unemployment as well as and other things. So I'm gonna say to you guys that you must always have a plan B. All right, plan for these challenges that you're going to face. All right, have a plan B in case things just don't go the same way. For example, if you wanted to study medicine so badly, there's also the option of doing a BSc um, in something. All right, or you can go and study you can go do medicine in Cuba, for example, because a lot of learners are being recruited to go study in Cuba. All right, so please make sure that you always meet the requirements and always have a plan B of what you are going to be doing. All right. And also another thing, guys, it's so important for you to have SMART goals. Remember we taught you about this acronym in grade 11. We said that your goals must be specific. And what we mean by specific is that you know exactly what your goal is, and that it's just not a general wish. Your goals must also be measurable. So you need to be able. Can you measure your progress, and can you see if you've achieved each step and if you're working towards each step? All right. Is your goal achievable? All right. And then are your goals realistic? And how much time are you giving yourself as well? So please, um, you need to make sure of all these things, guys. Thank you so much for everything and for tuning in today's lesson. I've got a bit of a challenge for you before you go. Don't log out. All right. I did a bit of an exercise. All right. I want you to check it out. All right. To show you that I'm exercising right here at home. All right. And I want to challenge you guys as well as part of keeping fit. I'm going to play it again. And keeping fit and healthy, we all know what benefits exercise has for us. I want us to exercise and to actually take part in all of this stuff. So I want you to do have a look at what you can do there, and if you could do all those exercises for me during the weekend and in next week as well, and if you could repeat that about 10 times, or sorry, 3 times in a day or even in a week, um, and let me know what the progress is. It's so important for us to, these are exercises. This is so important for you to take part and to keep fit. Um, all right. Salma says, what happens if you're already trained? You can try this one as well. All right. And then the last word, or last thing that I want to say to you is the biggest mistake that you can make is to believe that you are working for somebody else. All right. The driving force of a career must come from the individual. Remember, jobs are owned by the company. You own your own career. Remember that. That is so, so important for us to remember. And then, guys, again, join me next week. Have an awesome weekend. Rest a lot and study a whole lot more. I will see you guys on Monday. My Google this lecture will be on Google Classroom as well. I'll see you guys. Keep safe. Stay at home. Wash your hands. Sanitize. And I will see you guys um, on Monday. Enjoy the rest of your day, guys. Bye bye.